Have you ever noticed some people don't argue, they don't explain, they don't even react, they just go silent. And strangely, that silence feels louder than words. It confuses you, it frustrates you, sometimes it even hurts more than anything they could have said. But what if I told you silence is not weakness? In fact, it's often the most powerful response a person can give. Today, you're going to understand the psychology behind people who go silent, and once you understand it, you will never see silence the same way again. All species silence is not what you think most people believe silence means. They don't care. They lost the argument, they have nothing to say. But the truth is very different. Silence is often a controlled response. It's what happens when someone chooses peace over chaos. Think about it. Anyone can shout. Anyone can react emotionally. But staying silent, that requires control. That requires awareness. And sometimes that requires strength most people don't have. When silence comes from pain, one of the deepest reasons people go silent is emotional pain. Not everyone expresses pain loudly. Some people, they withdraw, they distance themselves, they go quiet because talking about it feels even more painful than staying silent. They think, what's the point of explaining myself? They won't understand anyway. It's better to just stay quiet. So instead of arguing, they disappear emotionally. And the scary part, you might think everything is fine while they're slowly disconnecting inside. Silence says a defense mechanism. Silence can also be protection. When someone has been hurt too many times, they learn something powerful. Not every situation deserves a reaction. So instead of reacting emotionally, they shut down, not because they're weak, but because they've learned energy is valuable. Everyone deserves access to it, the power of emotional control. Let's be real. Reacting is easy. Controlling yourself, that's rare. When someone stays silent during conflict, it means they are choosing logic over emotion. They are thinking instead of reacting, and that gives them power. Because emotional reactions can be used against you. But silence leaves people guessing. It creates mystery. That your worth is, it shifts control. Silence can be a message, sometimes silence is louder than words. When someone stops responding, stops explaining, stops engaging, that silence is saying something. It might be saying, I'm done explaining, I'm done arguing, I'm done with this situation. And here's the truth, when words stop, pay attention. Because silence often means a decision has already been made. Intelligent people use silence. Highly self-aware people understand something important. Not every situation needs a response. They don't waste time proving themselves. They don't argue just to win. They observe, they analyze, and when necessary, they walk away silently because they know winning an argument is not always winning in life. Silence secretus respect. Have you ever noticed the person who talks less often gets more respect? A coincidence. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you stay calm, people take you seriously. And when you don't react emotionally, you appear stronger. Because people expect reactions, but silence, unpredictable. When silence becomes dangerous, but here's the other side. Not all silence is healthy. Sometimes silence is suppression. It's when someone keeps everything inside until one day they explode. Or worse, they emotionally shut down completely. So if someone is always silent, always holding things in, that's not strength. Unresolved pain. How to understand silent people. If someone in your life goes silent, don't assume the worst. Instead, ask yourself, are they hurt? Are they protecting themselves? Are they tired of explaining? Sometimes what they need is not pressure, but understanding, because behind silence, there is always a reason. What you should learn from this, the real lesson, is simple. You don't always need to react. You don't always need to argue. You don't always need to prove your point. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing at all. So next time someone goes silent, don't rush to judge them. Don't assume they are weak, because silence is often the result of deep thinking, emotional strength, or silent battles you know nothing about. And maybe the real question is not why are they silent, but what made them stop speaking in the first place? Because once someone chooses silence, they rarely go back to who they used to be. There's something most people will never admit. Silence changes how people see you. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop chasing conversations, something shifts. People start noticing your absence more than your presence, and that's when silence becomes power. Silence makes people think. When you argue, you give people clarity. When you explain, you give people answers. But when you go silent, you give them nothing. And the human mind hates uncertainty. So what happens? They start thinking, they replay conversations, they question their own actions, they wonder what you're feeling. And without saying a single word, you stay on their mind. That's the psychological effect of silence. It creates curiosity, and curiosity creates attention. People respect what they cannot control. Let's be honest, most people are used to controlling reactions. They expect you to get angry, defend yourself, explain your side. But when you don't, they lose control of the situation, and that makes them uncomfortable because now they don't know how to deal with you. And strangely, that uncertainty creates respect because people respect what they don't fully understand. Silence after being hurt, there's a specific kind of silence, the one that comes after disappointment. Not loud anger, not emotional breakdown, just quiet distance. This silence is different. It's not about proving a point, it's about realizing something, realizing that not everyone deserves your energy, not every situation deserves your reaction, not every person deserves access to you. And once someone reaches that point, they don't argue anymore, they detach. Detachment is the final stage. Silence often leads to something deeper. Detachment. At first, people try to fix things. They communicate, they explain, they fight to be understood. But when nothing changes, they stop. And that's when silence becomes dangerous, because detachment means they're no longer emotionally invested. They don't feel the need to react. They don't feel the need to stay. And once someone reaches this stage, it's almost impossible to bring them back. The most powerful type of silence, not all silence is the same. There is weak silence and there is powerful silence. Weak silence comes from fear, fear of speaking up, fear of confrontation, fear of being judged. But powerful silence, it comes from clarity. It's when you can speak but you choose not to. It's when you understand not everything deserves my attention. That kind of silence is unshakable. When you should use silence, silence is not something you use all the time, is something you use wisely. Use silence when someone is trying to provoke you, someone refuses to understand you, someone disrespects your boundaries, someone drains your energy, because in those moments, words won't fix anything, but silence protects your peace. Silence is self-respect at the end of the day. Silence is not about them. It's about you. It's about knowing your worth. It's about understanding your energy is limited. And it's about choosing where to invest it. Because not every argument is worth winning. Not every person is worth convincing. And not every situation is worth your time. So the next time you feel the urge to react, pause, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is if the answer is no, say nothing, because sometimes silence is not just a response, it's a statement, a powerful one. There comes a point in life where silence is no longer just a reaction, it becomes a transformation. You stop explaining yourself, you stop seeking validation, you stop trying to make people understand you, and slowly you become someone different, not colder, just clearer. Growth changes how you respond. The truth is, the more you grow, the less you feel the need to react, because you begin to realize something powerful. Not every opinion matters, not every comment deserves attention, not every person deserves access to your mind. And once you understand this, silence becomes natural. It's no longer something you force, it's who you become. You start observing more when you talk less. You see more. You notice things others miss, the way people speak, the way they react under pressure, the way their actions don't match their words. And this awareness changes everything because now you don't just hear people, you understand them. And once you truly understand them, and once you truly understand people, you realize why silence is often the best response. Silence reveals true intentions. Here's something most people don't realize: when you stop reacting, people reveal themselves. If someone only values you when you respond, they were never truly valuing you. If someone gets frustrated when you stay calm, they were depending on your reactions. If someone walks away because you went silent, they were never there for the right reasons. Silence exposes truth, it removes the noise and shows you who people really are. By letting go without words, not all endings need closure, not all goodbyes need explanations. Sometimes the most powerful way to let go is silently. No long messages, no emotional speeches, no final arguments, just distance, just peace, because deep down you already know everything you need to know, and explaining it again won't change anything, won't change anything. Want peace over outer noise. Most people are addicted to noise, constant talking, constant reacting, constant proving. But real peace, it exists in silence. It's in those moments where you choose not to argue, not to respond, not to engage in negativity, because protecting your peace is more important than winning any argument. Silence builds its mental strength. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you build something powerful. Discipline, you train your mind to stay calm under pressure. Discipline, you train your mind to stay calm under pressure. You train your emotions to stay controlled. And over time, you become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. The ultimate level of silence, the highest level of silence, is when you are no longer affected. No anger, no frustration, no need to prove anything, just calmness, just clarity, just control. At that level, people can try to provoke you, but nothing works because your peace is no longer dependent on others. In the end, silence is not about ignoring the world. It's about choosing yourself. It's about protecting your energy. It's about understanding that not everything deserves your attention. And most importantly, it's about becoming someone. Worth is who no longer needs to speak loudly to be heard, because the strongest person in the room is often the one who says the least, but understands the most. There is a quiet shift that happens when you start embracing silence, and most people don't even realize it at first. It doesn't come with a big moment or a dramatic decision. It happens slowly, almost invisibly. Or one day you just notice that things that used to trigger you no longer do. Conversations that once pulled you into arguments now feel unnecessary. Is ye. And the need to explain yourself begins to fade. At first it might feel strange. You might wonder if you're becoming distant or if something is wrong. But in reality, this is growth. This is what happens when you begin to outgrow chaos. You stop reacting, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that not everything deserves your emotional investment. People around you may not understand this change. In fact, some of them will question it. They might say you've changed. They might accuse you of being cold, uninterested, or disconnected. But what they don't see is the internal clarity you've developed. They don't see the battles you've already fought in your mind, the lessons you've already learned, and the peace you're trying to protect. Silence at this stage becomes a filter. It helps you see who truly respects you and who only values your reactions. Because when you stop reacting the way people expect, their behavior changes. Some will try harder to get a response out of you, some will become uncomfortable, and some will quietly drift away. And that's the point. Silence removes illusions. It shows you who is genuinely aligned with you and who was only there for the noise, the drama, or the control. It forces truth to the surface without you having to say a single word. There is also a deeper level to this. When you embrace silence, you start building a stronger connection with yourself. Instead of constantly focusing on external conversations, you begin to pay attention to your internal one. You reflect more. You understand your own emotions better. Is you become more aware of your patterns, your triggers, and your values, and this self-awareness changes how you move through life. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't seek constant validation. You don't seek constant validation. You don't chase attention because you've already found Summit. Hing more valuable, inner stability. And when you have that, silence becomes comfortable. It becomes natural. It becomes a place where you can think clearly, feel deeply, and act intentionally. But here's something important to understand. Silence is not about avoidance. It's not about running away from problems or ignoring everything. True silence is intentional. It's a choice, not a fear. It's the ability to speak when necessary and to stay quiet when speaking would only create more noise. Worth is that balance is what separates emotional maturity from emotional suppression, because there will always be moments in life where you need to speak up, where your voice matters, where silence would only allow problems to grow. But when you learn the difference between those moments and the ones that don't deserve your energy, you gain control over your life in a way most people never do. And that control is powerful. It means you're no longer controlled by your emotions. You're no longer reacting automatically to everything around you. You're choosing your responses with intention. You're deciding what deserves your time, your words, and your energy. Most people never reach this level. They spend their lives reacting, arguing, proving, and explaining. They get caught in cycles of unnecessary conflict because they don't know how to step back. But you're learning something different. You're learning that silence is not empty. It's full of awareness. It's full of strength. It's full of control. And once you truly understand that, your entire presence changes. You don't need to be loud to be noticed. You don't need to argue to be right. You don't need to explain to be understood, because the right people will understand you even in your silence. And the wrong people will reveal themselves because of it. That's the power of silence, not in what it says, but in what it exposes.